Welcome to So and So, brought to you by Bernina, Made to Create. I'm Meg Goodman, and you're about to enjoy a casual conversation with a special member of the sewist and quilting community. A conversation about how they got started, what inspires them, what excites them, and their connection to this community. Our guest today is Mary Margaret Pettway, the current chair of the Board of Trustees for the Souls Grown Deep Foundation and Community Partnership, and a member of the Gee's Bend Quilters Collective. The foundation stewards the largest and foremost collection of works by Black artists from the southern United States, encompassing some 1,000 works by more than 160 artists, two-thirds of whom are women. The work of the Gee's Bend Quilters is among this collection. Born and raised in Gee's Bend, Alabama, Mary Margaret is a third-generation quilter. She's the daughter of Lucy T. Pettway, whose quilts are featured prominently in Gee's Bend, The Women in Their Quilts, The Quilts of Gee's Bend, and Gee's Bend, The Architecture of the Quilt, and have been featured in numerous museum exhibitions. Quilts by Lucy T. were acquired from the Souls Grown Deep Foundation by the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 2014, the High Museum of Art in 2017, and the Virginia Museum of Arts in 2018. Mary Margaret has taught quilting workshops throughout the Southeast and is a regular instructor at Black Belt Treasures Cultural Arts Centers in Camden, Alabama. In 2018, she was named an Alabama Humanities Fellow by the Alabama Humanities Foundation. Mary Margaret lives in Boykin, Alabama with her daughter Jade and son Kyle. Hi, Mary Margaret, and welcome to So and So.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
It is so good to have you with us today. There's so much rich history and conversation that we're going to get to share today. We're very excited about this, and I want to jump in and say that you are a very accomplished quilter, and it's your mother who taught you how to sew.
Mhm.
So tell us how all of this began.
Oh, this began. Oh God, I'm almost ashamed to say it. This was years and years ago, before I even hit double digits. Quilting, quilting down there, it is taught to the young men and the young women. So we start as really young children, and it starts under the quilt, actually, where you're threading the needle, and everything, and that's the way it goes.
So this is just a part of the community that you lived in, that everybody learns how to do this when they're young.
Oh, yes. If your mother was a quilter, you're gonna learn how, whether or not you continue into your adulthood, you're gonna learn how.
So tell us more about Gee's Bend and why the work of Gee's Bend Quilters is so significant.
Gee's Bend is a very, very, very rural, tiny little town. Um, we we didn't know what we were doing would be considered as art. Um, we were always seems like to me, thinking back now, we were always sought out because somebody usually would come and buy quilts from different people, and they would leave, never to be heard. Right now, in the late '90s, early 2000s, a man by the name of William Arnett came down from Atlanta, and he just bought quilts from everybody, pretty much that had quilts and wanted to.
Okay.
And I am thankful to him because what he did with those quilts, nobody had ever done it before. He is the reason that we are
Mm-hmm.
um, in museums now. And I want to always give him my thanks, you know.
And that's William Arnett
Yes,
that did that.
yes, of course.
Now, Mary Margaret, you've been quoted as saying that making quilts, clothes, aprons, and bags was a necessity as well as a way of life because you were, and I quote you, using what you have to make what you need.
Hmm.
Now, you've spent the past 39 years using this motto as your guide. Tell us more about that, how you source your materials, and are there any special stories about these materials you'd like to share?
We source our materials earlier in my life before anybody was really making any money. We used to use old worn out clothes, like the jeans, work clothes from the husbands or the wives, old dresses, what we call a dress tail quilt or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Things you might have outgrown and couldn't pass on because it was damaged in some way. And we used to get boxes that were sent in to the Freedom Quilting Bee. They would send some down and we'd get one. And we used stuff out of there that we couldn't use to wear. And some people were actually able to go to Goodwill or Salvation Army. They might have found a piece of material in there, remnants or just whatever we were able to get our hands on and sew. We used it.
Do you remember the first piece you ever sewed?
The first quilt I ever made, I started, you start off making blocks. You don't make the whole quilt.
Okay.
So the first blocks I made was like a 9 pack. And when I was like maybe 11, 12, 13, somewhere up in there, I had learned how to applique. And even though it was done with just regular colored thread, I was just proud. I made 12 blocks, and these were like out of flour sacks. And um, I drew the pattern on and I appliqued on. I had green thread and burgundy thread, and I just appliqued like a tulip pattern, and all of them were the same. And I stripped it in a green and white gingham check.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put that quilt together, and it was, I mean, put together on by hand and everything. I never saw that quilt again. I want to say my mother quilted it and sold it, but I'm not sure. That was the first one I did.
It would be a beautiful thing if you could ever find it.
Never will find.
I'm sure it's out there making somebody very happy.
Yeah.
And certainly your first piece that you sewed, it will always be special to you.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about the foundation, Souls Grown Deep. You've been a trustee there since 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and you have really spearheaded the foundation's efforts to locate living Gee's Bend quilters with work in the collection or their heirs in order to help them in obtaining representation for their copyrights through your partnership with the Artists' Rights Society. This sounds like quite an effort. Will you tell us more about it?
For me, it's really not it's not quite an effort, and it's simply because I said before, G's Pen is very small. This is a place where everybody knows everybody. They know their children, grandchildren, the mothers, the fathers, the sisters, the brothers. They know everybody that's down there.
Mm-hmm.
So it really wasn't hard because I grew up with a lot of yeah.
Sure. So copywriting this work, what does that give the creator of the quilt or the piece? Why is this so important?
Copyright, that means we retain the right to those designs, whether they were created by us or our parents.
Mm-hmm.
That means we retain the rights to those quilt designs. And that is important because if let's say I sold you the copyright to one of my mother's patterns, and yes, I am her last living direct heir, I wouldn't be able to do that piece again. You know, it's just like selling a body part. You don't want to do that.
Sure. So tell me more about the Souls Grown Deep Foundation. How did the foundation get its name?
It's actually, it was created by William Arnett.
It was.
Yes. And he had a board and everything. And when he started getting sick, he actually used his own collection from the quilts that he had collected from us. They were in his personal collection. So, and he donated that to Souls Grown Deep. And that's along with some more of his personal pieces. he had from different artists from the South. And that's how it started. I even like the name of it, Souls Grown Deep.
It is powerful.
Yes, it is. It's become a force where the quilts and other southern, artists from the South. Yeah.
Mary Margaret, you talk about your how you know everybody in Gee's Bend.
hmm
Tell us more about your family, and their involvement in the Gee's Bend Quilters.
Which part? I mean, my mother's family, my father's family, or
Sure, yeah, and all of them.
well, my mother was the oldest. Her mother had 16 children, and it's only a handful that was living
Mm-hmm.
when I came into being, so to speak. So she had one son that had 16 children, him and his wife, two that one that had six and two that had eight. So, and by her being the oldest, when it came, she didn't have, when she was growing up, they didn't, school wasn't a necessity. It was more of a luxury because they were needed to work in the field, how to make a living, right?
Okay.
But the thing that my mother did, she tried to make sure that her children finished school. And that's the one thing she did do, and she did it well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of us had a chance to finish high school. Also, by her being the oldest, I think she was the best cook. So she never married. But what she would do on the weekends, she would keep her sister's children when their husbands, because some of the husbands used to work like in Mobile or whatever, and they were gone pretty much through the week. So they would have a date night on Friday night or Saturday night,
Mm-hmm.
and all the children stayed there at the house in a 3-bedroom house. So when she woke up, she was pretty much stepping over children because we had like pallets on the floor and they stayed over because there just were not enough beds. Girls were in one room, the boys were in another.
Yep. And it sounds like that family community is powerful.
Oh, it is on the weekend, like I say. On Saturday, we would get our hairs washed, every girl, and
Mm-hmm.
the boys would go and get haircuts and come back home. The older boys would take the younger ones, and the older girls would wash the younger girls' hair. I'm surprised nobody drowned. But anyway, and she would cook. She would do breakfast and she would do lunch. And by that evening, late that evening, our hairs would be getting done for the week, and um, by the older girl or whatever they needed to do, we would wash the sheets and blankets and everything and hang them on the lines. And this was pre-dryer for us,
Mm-hmm.
so we had clotheslines. And the yard would be swept. The big children would make the smaller children like a hopscotch, and we would find a old piece of broken plate or something to play hopscotch with. It was peaceful. Everybody was kind and loving. The G's Bend is still a very peaceful place. This is where your children don't disappear. Nobody steals children around there. We actually bring them back to your house when they walk away.
Yeah, sure. Sure. And it sounds like the whole community raises everybody.
They do. I mean, I had neighborhood kids. I worked, and my mother died in 2004. My son was born in the 90s. My daughter was born in the 90s. So, and I had to work because I was their sole support.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for the bills to get paid, I had to go to work. And then it came a time I couldn't go. And I was always home then, but I went back to where I came from, which is back cooking, because my mother was a great cook. I can also cook. I
Mm-hmm.
hate it, but I can. But I rather sew. I would rather sew than do anything.
What's your favorite thing to sew?
Making quilts. I've actually got up one at my house. Yeah,
Quilts.
the different kinds. the one at the High Museum in Atlanta, the Virgin Air quilt. I right now I treated myself to a king size bed, and I had to extend that quilt when I was making mine. I extended it out to fit a size bed, but circumstances come along, and I wound up selling it. Mm.
So I want to talk about that quilt that is at the High Museum of Art in Atlanta. It has a connection to one of our country's first ladies. Tell us about that.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is special.
That that quilt, the design, those triangles in that quilt. If you look at that at the painting by Amy Sherrod carefully, you would see those triangles in the back side of that dress that she had wearing when she painted it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that fact because Amy Sherrod told us she's been down there several times, but she did. She said we were the inspiration for her doing that particular dress, that style. And I like that. She gave us the recognition that we deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And that was the portrait of Michelle Obama.
Yes, it was our first lady.
Yes, indeed. And it's a beautiful thing for people to understand the history of what went into making that quilt. Mary Margaret, you talked about your children, Jade and Kyle. Do they sew?
Oh yes, they do so. They, as a matter of fact, my son has a quilt on my Etsy page right now, the one that's quilted. And whereas I did help him with
Mm-hmm.
some of the quilting, I actually have proof that he quilted on his own. So pretty much,
And that's on your Etsy page.
yes.
Excellent. I want to talk about some more of your work with Souls Grown Deep because you do a lot of important things, and you have been an essential resource in launching and generating participation in Souls Grown Deep's economic development and social impact initiatives right in Gee's Bend. And that's been included the establishment of the Gee's Bend Resource Center, which made masks for all of Gee's Bend, the whole community, at the onset of COVID-19. And you're helping create new pathways to market access for your quilters.
Hmm.
So, tell us about this, the resource center, and how you have created these new pathways and how things are going.
Well, the Resource Center was created to try to help the citizens of Gee's and Rehoboth in Alberta. I mean, it's a census tracker. Is if you want to use internet and you don't have any, it's the place where you can go and talk to somebody and try to get your stimulus checks. It's a help, you know, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
we made masks. We made over 600 masks, and I promise you, it was me. I think five other quilt people,
Mm-hmm.
and we tried to get the mask. We got the material, the cloth, from American Giant. We had did a collaboration with them last year, and we had so much material left, and we thought we would put it to good use, and that was to make masks for everybody in our community. And we did it. It
Mm-hmm.
took a minute, but we did it, and we passed those masks out. At least everybody had at least one good mask that's made 100% cotton,
Mm-hmm.
and it was 3 layers thick. And we, like I say, we did it. And so it's grown deep. They actually paid us for it, and that was just great because that brought money into the community.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess they said, well, we didn't have to, so they were going to pay us anyway, which was a good thing. It's always good when money comes into the community.
It is indeed. Now, another thing for bringing money in is you've helped the quilters get access to the marketplace. You mentioned your Etsy page.
Yes,
Are you doing things like this with other quilters in Gee's Bend?
yes, we're always trying to get more people that actually sew in G's band to come on. I mean, why not showcase your work? Show the world what you can do. You
Sure.
know,
Yes.
it's one thing to say, well, yes, I can quilt. Yes, I can sew. But it's another to prove it. Show me. You know, at that point, I'm from Missouri,
Hmm.
the show me state, you know. Yeah.
Indeed. Mary Margaret, you are an Alabama Humanities Fellow.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that. That's quite an honor.
I, well, it is an honor. Um, I was on the panel with several other people. I met Peggy Wallace, a lady whom I had kind of like mixed emotions about, but I actually like her. I love her, you know. And um, hmm, I cannot think about who I was on with, but I love the award. It was created by Mrs. Jacoby in Montgomery.
That's a very special thing. I also want to talk about your Black Belt Treasures Cultural Arts Center in Camden, where you teach. First of all, it's a very interesting name for a cultural arts center. So I don't know if you can tell us how it got its name, and then I want to hear about the classes that you teach there.
I have no idea how they got their name, but I do know that I enjoy teaching there. There are sometimes I have children during the summer to teach. Not so since the pandemic hit, but usually I teach children in the summer and try to make sure that they leave with a finished piece that they can use for apron, bottom half of an apron, or for a pillow or something, or maybe a little dolly cover or whatever. Even the boys, and yes, I do teach boys also.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some women that come in that want to learn how to sew, and I have to hurt their feelings because they cannot learn in a day, you know. But what I can take them step by step and show them what they need to do. And no, I don't sew for them. They have to do it themselves. I may put a couple of stitches in their piece, but all in all, it's them. If they want to learn how to hand sew or hand quilt, I will. I had a couple of ladies from Mobile that came up from like October to December to finish a piece, and they did it. And I love teaching them. I like that.
Mary Margaret, you do a lot. You've done a lot. You are doing a lot. What's next for you?
Right now, I'm in the midst of it because Hashco, designer Patrick Robinson, brought his design line down here, and right now, as of now, we're working, making some of his designs. We've made Wisdom the T-shirt, and we've made Aura the T-shirt, and I have no idea what this one is named, but we've got another one we're ready to start on. So yes. My fingers in too many pies. I'm in everything. Look like
So with all you do, what's your dream?
my dream. I dream. I want G's Bend to be. I don't. I cannot say like a big city. I want all the roads paved, uh, so we won't hit potholes and knock our cars out of line. I want the grass cut regularly so we can see a deer if it comes out. G's Bend is a
Mm-hmm.
17 or 19-mile ride from Alberta down a road that looks like it leads to nowhere when in all it leads actually it leads to paradise. Like I said, it's a place with no crime. Like I say, our children don't come missing or anything like that. We can work. I can go to a friend's house, call them and say, hey, what did you cook today? I'm starving. I need something to eat. And they'll actually be them and welcome me, to their home to get a dinner.
Sure.
It's home. It's home.
All roads should lead to G's Bend.
Yeah, but with this pandemic, good thing they don't now. Mm,
Well, that's true. May it all end swiftly. Now
yes.
we've talked about so much today. But I'm going to ask you, what question didn't I ask you that you wish I had?
I don't know. I don't think. I mean, as you know, you're noticing rather. You can ask me pretty much anything. I don't know. I know, geez, like I say, G's been is a settled community. I'm in my late 50s now, so I'm at a very settled age. It's a place I love. Want peace? G's Bend would be the place to visit after the pandemic.
Yeah, hold off
But
and then come visit.
there you go. There you go. But like I say, it's home.
It also sounds to me like nobody's a stranger in G's Bend.
They are. G's Bend is a place where you can stop and say, "Hey, where's the park?" And people will actually point you in the right direction. If they see you going wrong, you'll see somebody trying to stop you. And even if you're actually drunk, they will point you in the right direction. There's, like I said, there's very little crime. So it's just a place I enjoy. I call home.
Mary Margaret, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Mm-hmm.
If any of our listeners would like to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Hey, contact me on my email, which is Mary Margaret Pettway, MaryMargaret @gmail.com.
Perfect. And you also have an Etsy page.
Yes, the name of my Etsy page is Lucky's Baby. That was my mother's nick.
Lucky's Baby.
Yeah, that was my mother's nickname. Her given name was Lucy. Everybody called her Lucky. So and I am actually her baby, which that's the last one. She said I was the last button on Gabriel's shirt. I was the last. Mm-hmm.
Lucky's Baby on Etsy.
Yeah.
Mary Margaret, thank you again so very much for joining us today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, there you have it, another story about someone just like you, someone for whom quilting is so much more than a hobby. It's a way of life. It's a connection to something bigger. If you know someone you think has an outstanding story, a story that should be shared on this podcast, please drop me a note to megoodman@theflintrock.com and put "You should hear their story" in the subject line. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and visit our website, soandsopodcast.com, for more information about today's and all of our guests. That's SEWANDSO podcast.com. And finally, I want to thank Bernina for making this program possible. I'm Meg Goodman, and I look forward to your joining us next time on So and So.